Good morning. Thank you for attending the session. Yeah, it's the first time I have to present a session with or without glasses and not knowing. Anyway. So, about script transactions. First, a little bit of myself. My name is Fabrice Nordmann. I'll make it short, and most of you have heard this introduction many times. So, not so young anymore. Gender, is it safe to say? I'm not sure anymore. Place of birth, the nice city of Cambridge, which at the time was a place for humanism and rationality. And residence between Brussels and Paris, which is now really I'm just really in between. So now I'm going to the subject and see the agenda of this session. First, what is a data transaction? Why is it important? Is the FileMaker engine transactional, the database engine? What is this new stuff? We're talking about the feature release with 19.6 version of FileMaker and updated in 20.2, I think. A little bit of error trapping, but the error trapping session is next door, so it's just not get confused. Wizard style interfaces, caveats about there are some, and easy tricks that will change your life. So, what is a data transaction? We are not talking in this session about a user transaction, although we will see a little bit of those wizard type interface at the end, which are user transaction. What is a user transaction? It's, for instance, open the window with only global fields, wait until the user has finished editing, and then commit and copy the values to standard fields. That is a user transaction that has always been possible. I mean, at least since we have global fields. That's a long time ago. So a transaction, a database transaction is a CRUD, so it's create, update or delete operation or bunch of operation on multiple records in one go. One transaction in FileMaker, a transaction is what happens when you commit data, right? Commit record is a transaction, is the a transaction can be reverted if it fails. And it's all or nothing. Transaction, the idea of a transactional database is you do a bunch of operations, and if one of them fails, the whole transaction is reverted. You cannot be cherry picking. Okay? So this is the idea of a database transaction. So this is not specific to FileMaker. This is like the standard transaction. It's I open a transaction, I do some CRUD operation, including read, which is not the case in FileMaker, but anyway, and close transaction. So again, all or nothing, and I just what I said earlier. Okay, keep in mind this slide. I'll copy it later on, so we can see how it translates in the FileMaker vocabulary. So why is it important? There must be many other bullet points, but these are the main ones. First, for data integrity. If you work in a transactional mode, it's much safer. I mean, you don't have inconsistencies or integrity issues that come from a transaction only partially or operations only partially working. Obvious example, you start importing records, and in the middle of the import you cancel, or the network fails, or something happens. Well, some records were imported or modified if you are updating, some are not updated, you don't know which, and that's a non-transactional database. With transactional transactions, you initiate a process, import records, commit a transaction. If it fails for any reason, nothing's changed, right? So data integrity. Performance. Here we are talking about FileMaker more specifically. You have, although this is not entirely true, but the idea is you have a single communication between the client and the server, right? You just prepare all your data modification and commit them in one go. It's much more efficient in terms of server to client operation, indexing, and so on. And of course, it's much easier to manage in case of failure, right? As I said before, if you have imported some records and you don't know which were modified and which failed, it's a mess. Not to say it's impossible to revert, or well. So, is the FileMaker database engine transactional? By default, I'd say no. If you are modifying multiple records, between each record you have a transaction, right? Which is a single record transaction. That's not what we call transactional database. It's okay. In reality, yes, FileMaker is transactional, and I will show it to you. It's transactional when we work through relationships, right? So I know that there's been many sessions on the subject, using portals, using sorts of things, but portals are of course okay because they use a relationship. I would like to make it very clear to narrow this down. FileMaker is transactional when you edit records through relationships. That's all. The only thing you've got to remember, right? We are not talking yet about the new feature. That's the old engine, and we'll see. Nothing has changed really. If you want to work out, this is no, there is new stuff coming. Okay, and so when you work cross relationship, you can do create operation if you know the relationship allows creation of record. You can do edit operation, of course, and you can do delete. But to delete, you really need a portal object. Why? Because we don't have such a script step such as delete related record. We have delete portal row. So for deletion, you have to have a portal object. So before we go to the demo, let's see what happens when a transaction is committed in FileMaker. So this is when you close a transaction, or when you commit a record, or when you change record. There are many things that cause a commit in the database, right? So when you close a transaction, when you commit a transaction, data is validated by the server. It's saved to the database. Well, of course, there's all the validation and so on. And if it succeeds, the data is indexed. And notifications are sent to all clients who are currently using this record, or who downloaded this record for some reason. And if it fails, well, the commit command is reverted and you've got an error message, right? This is what happens. Nothing new. This is what it's always happened, right? Okay. So, sorry. Yeah, just if now we go, I just copied the slide, the first slide I showed on the right. So we have the, as a reminder, and how it translates in FileMaker. Well, in FileMaker always had, this is not true, by the way, this was introduced, Open Record was introduced later on, but it's an old thing still. We can open a record, right? The easy way to open a record is start typing in the field, but you can open a record without doing that, using the script step. Then we do our CRUD operations, and then we commit record, right? Or we revert. Okay? This is the FileMaker vocabulary for doing all these standard transactional databases thing. Side note, the truncate script step is not revertible because it does not talk to the database engine. It's directly, it's completely different path. So, FileMaker, as I said, is not, that's the first version, is not transactional. Well, read operations like UI, calc engine, and so on are not part of the transaction. That's not really an issue. We don't really care. Some other database, they would consider reading as being a transaction. There are implicit ways to open a transaction, like edit a field, just what I said earlier. That's not an issue, okay, it's just an alternate way. There are implicit ways to commit a record, and this is more of a problem. So when you change record, when you change mode, when you change layout, this is what we tend to name context, with very different definitions depending on who you're talking to. But context, right? If you change context, you commit the record. So typically, if you are not using relationship, if you're navigating through records, every time you change a record, you commit the transaction, which means you have only single record transactions, which means you don't have transactions, to make it short, right? So here is an example on a loop. Each go to next record commits the transaction, okay? Some special actions that should be noticed. Truncate table, I just mentioned it. Import records. Import works on batches of not 25. That's not the case anymore. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, maybe. Actually, it depends on the format of the file you're importing. So you have import records. It works on chunks of data. So you have in a single import record operation, you may have multiple transactions. Replace field content, relookup works also on batches of records, of 500 records. And drag and drop is a special case also, because it doesn't open the record. Replace field content, by the way, is the same. It does not open the record. All the records are replaced without being opened and committed. So, now forget everything I said, and FileMaker was and has always been transactional. And this is where we go to the demo, where I'm using a lot of colors to keep you awake. Okay? Just very simple file, which I have 3 tables, yellow, red, and green. Right, on the yellow, and I have some relationships. Yellow is displaying some related red and green records in the portals of the relationship allow creation. And I have a completely separate thing here going. This is what you see here at the bottom of the screen. Oh, sorry for if you're behind a tall attendee, John. and this is corresponding to this relationship from a global field to another table occurrence of the red table. Okay, so this is what we have here now. So again, nothing new here. I'm just going to illustrate that you can FileMaker database engine is in fact transactional. So I have here a table. I'm going to copy some red characters and insert them here. Okay. I'm not leaving. I'm not committing. Okay. I'm just going to next field, goes to next record, and I can make it slightly different. So it's a different value, and so on. Okay, and I can also I still didn't commit, and I can do the same here, and I can open the data viewer here, and you will see that my record open state. I don't know if you can read from get record open status 2, which means it's open. Yes? Okay. So at this stage, the record is not committed, right? Because it takes time. I'm not going to show you that if it commits, it saves the record. You're all aware of that, right? And now, because the record is open, I can revert the record, right? If it wasn't, it would be grayed out here. So I'm just going to revert the record, confirm that I really clicked on what I wanted to click, and everything is reverted, right? Whether I forgot to make a modification on the main record, but believe me, main record, all related records, as many records that I want, they can be reverted, right? Because we are working on a relationship, through relationship, right? Okay. So this is how the FileMaker database is and was already transactional. Here we are using a portal. So let's create another record like that. And as you can see, I can open a record, delete, and I can also revert. Okay, because I didn't commit. So edit, create, delete, all this works. The only difference is, again, for delete, I need the portal object because I'm missing the delete related record script step, right? The command. I don't have. Okay, yeah.
Would this work with, how do you call it, a relationship to the same table as well?
Why not? Yes, of course. Every relation, it would work in every case, right? Including ESS, all type of relationship. Now, this is the obvious example with portal objects that was demoed in many sessions. But again, I want to be very clear. It's only because it's going through relationships. So I'm going to illustrate the same thing. And sorry again, I'm going to, to use fantastic capabilities of this platform to modify my layout on the fly. So even people at the background in the back can see. So now I'm just going to okay, sure. No problem. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to first create some records here in the red table. I hope you like my emoji new style of making demos. Well, anyway, So, um, so we have related records, right? And I'm committing the record to make it easier to understand. So I have now real records, now they're saved, okay, in the database. What I want to show you is I can, using this global field, I'm just going to copy here, sorry, I have to copy the ID of that related field, because that's the relationship I would set. You remember in the relationship graph, this was the last one at the bottom. So I'm just copying the ID field, and I'm seeing, of course, the related value, right? So I'm going to pick a car and replace that, right? And then I'm not committing, and I'm taking the ID of the shoe record, and I'm going to add an apple. Okay, and I'm seeing that. And again, it's all, nothing here is committed. I can revert that transaction, right? And I'm not using the portal here, I'm just using a global field, right? It's only, and the field is global because it didn't make sense to store that value, but it would work, of course, with any relationship, okay? So the only thing you've got to remember with all that demo is FileMaker is transactional if you're working through relationship. And you can, of course, also create records. So if and this is referred to as being the magic key technique, I'm going to create a mushroom thing. And here I'm just going, you remember my, oh no, I forgot to enable creation of records. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But then I think it's committed, right? Okay. It doesn't really matter because so I have a mushroom in my clipboard, and I'm just copying it here, right? And what I'm going to do is create a record, but because, well, this is a side thing, right? You don't have to remember that if you're not aware of that. It's called the magic key technique. So basically the left key is empty. This is a global key here. And I'm just setting a value, but FileMaker has to establish a relationship because that's what I'm telling it to do. So what is going to happen? A new record is going to be created. The new primary key is going to be created in the related table. And to establish the relationship, this new ID is going to come back to my global field. I'm just exiting the field here, and I created a new record like that, right? Okay, this is a very, very smart technique invented by my dear friend Ugo Di Luca many years ago, and it's very, very useful to, well, before we had the transactions that I'm going to show you now, the new transactions, it was a very, very neat way to, to work on many tables, create records, get the ID back, send it to another record on another table. Well, you could do everything without changing context. So, I hope you're happy with that, but until now I showed nothing new, right? Just, I'm going to go back to Keynote. And now we are going to talk about the new stuff. New stuff has evolved between version 19.6 and the latest version. So I'll make it I'm not going to go into the details. We're going to talk about the feature as it is now. So, marketing says transactions. Well, you've got new script transactions. That's really nice. And it comes with 3 script steps: open transactions, close transactions, and revert transaction. And I forgot to mention on the slide, it also comes with a new calculation function, which is get transaction open state, which tells you if you have an open transaction or not. Right? Okay, this is the feature as marketed. but as you've just seen, Frameco is already a transaction. So what this feature is really, it's simply implicit commit actions such as go to go to a different record, change layout, change mode, go to related record, or whatever context change, are just simply not committing the record anymore. That's the only thing it changes, right? There's nothing more in that feature. Actually, we will see the benefit is all in the revert transaction thing, because there is some more logic here. We will go into the details of that, right? But what this script step does, what this open transaction, revert transaction, is just inhibit the implicit commit, right? And by the way, because it would, now that they had designed this feature, it would have been a mess if they had still commit record and revert record. So they simply ignore it. If you use commit record or revert record, we will see this in a script. It just does nothing. No error code, just ignore it, right? But what open transaction does is strictly, there's absolutely no difference with open record. It's the same script step, labeled differently. And what commit transaction does is strictly the same as commit record. There's no difference at all, right? So everything database-wise, because interface-wise there are differences. What the new feature allows is really huge. It's a huge feature. But database-wise, you just have to remember nothing has changed. Okay? So, I'm listing these, but then I'm going to show you in the demo file. So, open and close, because of this implementation that they chose to have open transaction, close transaction, with indentation of the script text. They both have to be in the same script, which is not ideal in my, but still it's yeah. What happens? Just you can't save your script. It stays like an if statement. It says there's something missing. What if you copy XML without? I don't know. Since 2023, I said I wouldn't go into details. So, but in the current state of the feature, the revert transaction script step can be in a subscript, which is already a very good improvement from the first version. Very important to remember, it's bound to a single window, right? So your transaction happens only in one window, and you can't have multiple transactions in multiple windows. But the old style thing that I just showed, it completely supports multiple windows. You can have what I just showed with my colors and everything. You can absolutely have multiple windows and have a transaction per window that works, right? With the new stuff, only one transaction is supported on one window, okay? Sorry, is that a question? No?
I'd just like to make a comment on that, that sort of really takes us slightly back to...
Can you speak a little louder?
Sorry.
So.
That takes us back a little bit to when we are within one window, say, going off to another layout and performing imports or whatever, as opposed to using a new hidden window somewhere. That sort of means that the transaction would mean that you'd abandon that technique. If you
No, I don't think it would change something. I mean, this is more related to getting back to the same context where you were before the transaction. So it's more a interface thing.
What would happen within the actions in that new window, though? If you've got a transaction,
They would be committed immediately, right? They would have the standard behavior. Your transaction still remains, but in the original window.
so potentially you could be doing things like creating records.
No, no.
You've sort of got a
No, but that's not true. What I just said, no, because this is what you can do, what you will very soon be able to do with the. No, sorry, I'm mixing up things. No. Yeah, demo. Let's get back to my colorful file, just to illustrate. That's the free candies for later. I guess I need to zoom in here. And thanks, Christian. Can you all see? Yeah, it's a very simple script. I just wrote some very sophisticated custom function to insert some text with the right colors. Yeah. So Noma and FileMaker. So I'm just going to run that script because now you need to see the new feature in action. Okay, and this window I can't zoom. I will zoom in anyway. So I'm now opening a transaction. Okay, I'm entering browse mode, which you should always do before you try to write to some record. Many times I see people forgetting to make sure they're in the correct mode, but okay, so, and then go to layout. I'm already on that layout, that's good. New record. I open the record, but open the record here, because I'm in a transaction is completely ignored. By the way, it wouldn't make sense because we're already, we just created the record, so it's open. And I'm going to set some value here. I'm grabbing the ID of the record, and then instead of, having to drag a relationship, having to set the global field to point to the correct, to the specific record I want to edit, I don't have to do this anymore. And this is a huge thing, really. I can directly go to that layout. So I'm just changing the record. I'm just changing the context, okay? But my record is not committed, that's great. I can still revert that transaction. Okay, so now I'm going to create a new record, paste the ID. I'm not pasting, of course, but I'm doing some sophisticated things such as set field, doing the same in the green table. Commit transaction, fantastic. Just going to check, I should have shown the transaction open state. I will show you next in a minute. No errors, all fine. Good, go back. And I created, I created a new record with a related red record and a related green record. Great, no? Changing context, no commit, fantastic. Okay. Now I'll just do exactly the same, but I'm going to lock. No. Okay, I need to. I will just try to edit the same record. Okay. I will edit the same record instead of creating a new one. And what I want to show you is I'm going to lock this record. I shouldn't be able to edit my ID field, but anyway. That's... Okay, so I'm now locking this record, okay? Because I started editing it. So imagine another user on the network is also locking. And now I'm going to run my script. working with Sonoma is somehow, you've got to know so many shortcuts. Anyway, so I'm just doing exactly the same thing, except now,
Show the data viewer.
excuse me?
Do you want to show the data viewer while you're doing this system?
Thank you. Yes, you see, I open a transaction, right? So the transaction open state is 1. Okay? Which means there's a slight difference with open record, because open record would have thrown an error immediately because the record is already used by someone. Okay? But here I did not try, I did not start editing it. Okay? Now I'm going to set a field and look at what's going to happen. Oop. Okay, I have this, and immediately the script goes to the commit transaction, but in fact reverts it, right? Because there is an error. Immediately it jumps to that line, and I can see here in the data viewer I got a 301 error, which is very standard, right? The record is busy in another window. I have the error detail, which is really becoming very important. And I have a new function telling me where the error comes from. And it tells me the script name, the step name, and the step number. Very, very nice. Because, of course, an error can occur in many places in a single transaction, right? So you don't have to write code like you used to do, like with every step, if error equals this, and so on, and manage your... So the error handling of that is much easier, because the only thing you've got to do at the end, do I have an error? What number? Where? Right? It's still not ideal, because sometimes you've got to look at several places, but it's much more manageable. Several places being those 3 functions. Okay? So now look at what's going to happen. I'm going to the next step, and you see I have now, this is I have more information in the I was supposed to talk about this later on in the session, but I can't refrain myself. So now I have more information. I have also the information about where the commit script step is. The commit transaction script step is. Okay. So I have my real error and then my commit transaction script step location. Okay. So you've seen how the first error, it fails. Well, first error, and I don't want to go into the detail, but not all errors are reverting a transaction. It's all errors that have to do with the database model. Yeah.
So if I understand well, the commit transaction script step does not commit the transaction, but it closes the transaction.
Exactly, it closes the transaction.
Commit transaction, but sometimes it just closes the transaction with error.
Exactly, and I think on my slide I made an error. I saw I wrote close transaction because that's what it actually does. Yeah, it doesn't commit, but well, it does commit or revert. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, so is that all clear? We can go back to the error trapping a little later. Although no, I will be late, because at this pace I'm going to be late. Okay, now I'm going to show you a second example, just to illustrate that so same script, right? So I'm not going to spend much time explaining that. Just going to create a new record and so on. The only thing that this shows is that those script steps, commit record, revert record, are simply ignored. Like, they're not there. Okay? So here, no error code. Right? It's not that it's not available or anything. It just ignored. Okay? These are also ignored. I mean, they are ignored as implicit commit. Right? They're not committing. That's very important, because being able to find during the transaction is great. I mean, you're on a contact table, you go to the address layout, you find his addresses, present them as a list, let the user interact, go back, commit the whole thing. It's great. So, no relationship, no sort, no nothing like that. Related sort. Okay? So, that's what this second example was illustrating. And now we're going to look at the third script step that comes with this new feature, which is the great thing here. It's the revert transaction script step. Okay? So, just running running same stuff, and now I'm going to revert the transaction, right? I just explicitly say, okay, now revert. So of course what it's going to do, jump to the commit thing, everything was reverted, and next step, that's it, no error, okay? Because this was an explicit revert, okay? So you could write your script like, if I'm not happy with what just happened, just revert, okay? You could have multiple revert things like that, okay? What you can do also is you can write here a condition. Okay, it's a Boolean condition, so you can tell, okay, if Peter is in the room, or whatever is true, you revert, okay? Okay, so let's say a mod of okay, well, this is going to be 1 every 2, I mean, I have a 1 sense out of 2, every other. Okay, so now it's reverted, right? If I go back here with the debugger and I'm a little bit lucky, no, I'm still not, but no, because now the command is not available because I already reverted, in fact. So you can't do this type of debugging. Okay, but you can add your condition. You can add a condition, and so which means that with a single condition you can revert in many type of scenarios, right? It's very nice way of writing these. So I just to illustrate, I'll say something false. So you will see what happens here. So now the condition is false, so it's not going to revert, right? So everything is going to. Okay. Another nice thing here is, on the contrary, I'm going to say it's true. Is if you define your own error, you can specify your own error code and your own error message. For this, you have to know that the error code must be between 5,000 and 5,000 499, I think. Yeah. Okay, those two values. Right? This is not an operator, it's just to show you. Huh? I don't have a secret operator in fact. Okay? So if you define an error code that is between those two values, and I'm going to do so, like for instance 500, 200, and I can have this specific message okay, and I can now run the script. And now I have, of course, reverted the transaction. And if I look at the data viewer somewhere on my screen, no? Yeah, please. Oh, yeah. No. Where is the... It's in detail or?
You have to run you're still on the commit transaction step. You have to go one step further.
Oh, yeah, sure, of course. So here, sorry, yeah. So now I have this message because, of course, I didn't turn on the set error capture, right? So I have it here in the message, but I also have it here, more importantly, in the get lost error detail. Okay? Okay, is that clear for everyone?
What about the error numbers? You said like you have to define them in a certain range.
That's RTFM, my dear.
Yes, you were my man.
No, that's what it say in the documentation.
Oh, so if
If
you don't,
you don't, I think you don't get it in the message. You don't. Yeah, we can try, but I think
you don't get it.
no. You don't get a special code. It doesn't work because that might override a native code. So that's why they have this.
If you are able to put the error codes in the calculation, just calculation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a calculation, so you have your own ways. Okay, back to here. Was it clear for everyone what I just showed? Yeah, revert transaction is the great thing. Caveats. There are many. So I'll repeat some of what I said earlier, but so yeah, unexpected behavior, I think it's new because I don't think that was the case in the first version. When you open a transaction, it commits the current record in case you were editing it. That's something you have got to know. It does not support multiple transactions, one per window. As a reminder, again, old style transactions, they do. So you can still do it, it still works. Single script. Again, this implementation forces them to have the whole transaction is single script. You can have subscripts, of course, but open and close must be in the same script. That's a bit of a pain because if you would like to open, let's say, a wizard window and, and with a commit script, and some people, they like to open the window and then they have no script running, and then they would click OK and would like to commit the transaction in a different script. That's not my style, but I know some people, they like that. Doing that this way, it's not possible. So my style wins. Anyway, the pause technique I will show you just in a minute. Error trapping is not easy. Sometimes you've got to look at get lost error. Sometimes you've got to look at get lost error detail.
For do get last error,
Yes.
it then removes the other two error detail and locations, so you have to like set a variable to all three of those at the same time to be able to use it somewhere else.
Well, depending on what you do, actually. But if you set a variable, setting a variable is a step that erases the last error. That's what you mean, I guess. Yes.
No,
So,
if you do a let statement in there, so if you
yeah.
so you have to capture get last error and last error detail and last error location in one action, because otherwise it wipes it out.
Yes. One action that erases the next. I mean, if you would use a if, for instance, if does not delete the get last error, but set variable does, which is. Okay. And the most important, this is very, very important. It was, again, nothing has changed in the calculation engine, in the database engine. It's only about disabling implicit commit. So something that was understandable in a geeky relationship, global fields thing, has become a problem now that it's really in the very easy to use interface. So what am I talking about? When you start modifying your data during a transaction, or by creating a new record or editing one, then the other records you're going to modify during the same transaction are not aware of that change. Okay? Which is, it makes sense. Okay, the data is not committed to the database, right? But take a scenario where you have, okay, I'll create a new customer record, and I'm going to create in the same transaction a new invoice, because that's the first thing I want to do when I have a customer. No. And I'm just setting the ID which I got from the previous operation. If I'm going to have a lookup of his address, for instance, this is not going to work, because the invoice record cannot access the customer record that was just created or modified during that transaction. It's a very important problem. It was okay when it was only for developers that were, knowledgeable and that knew they were building a relationship just to do that. Now, it's in the hands of anyone, I would say, of everyone, and suddenly your lookups are not going to work anymore, or your auto-enter calculations. That's a real problem. I would have expected that the modified data would be like that the data set would be the database union what I just did during this transaction. But that's not the case. So because there is no modification at all of the database engine. Okay, so this is a big issue. So before we go to FreeCandy, I want to show you an example of wizard type interface. So this is an application Jean-Frédéric has been building for some time already. And at the beginning of the session, I said transactions, they are not user transactions. They're not related to the interface, the morpho scripts. That's true, but you can, of course, hack the system with knowing the limitation I just mentioned, because this is very important, the last thing. So here we are managing a painting collection, as you might have figured out. And I'm just going to, sorry, the interface is in French, but that's understandable. Here we have an interface where we don't access the data immediately. We see a short form of them because it could be very complex, and it doesn't make sense to have that many fields at the first level. And we want to edit the record in different windows. So we're just going to edit that one. And here it's a wizard interface, right? You've got to go through steps. You can jump from steps to others, okay, and add, or of course you can edit. You can in some of these interfaces you can add records, and it doesn't. Yeah, here. Okay, we are in this window. This window, as this stage, is in a pause. Okay, you know this technique of allow user abort off and being in the loop with the pause. This is how I prefer to have modal windows, because I like Windows to send me results back, like if functional programming preferred this to having my empty script stack and then strict. But this is all a matter of taste and preferences. But because of the implementation of open transaction, closed transaction that have to be in the same script, well, now this is the only way of doing that kind of interface, right? We couldn't open a card window, exit the script, which means you have no script running in the script stack, do your stuff, and then commit a transaction. You can't do it because open transaction and commit transaction have to be in the same script. So here is a loop, and we are going to a pause, and every button, or at least the buttons that are here, which this is OK and this is cancel, they are resuming the parent script, which is in pause, and then you I don't know, well, so the very nice benefit of here is we are switching layouts. We're not building strange interfaces with portals like this. This is not a portal. This is a list view. Or maybe that's not true. No, that's not true. But on some others we have list views. You can do finds. You know, when you switch from here to here, you don't have to have a relationship. You can do finds between the two. You're completely free. I mean, it's very easy to. I mean, the framework to do that with the loop thing, is not that easy. With the error trapping, this is really not easy. But once you have that, then doing all this stuff, it's child play. So no relationships, no sorts, at least no related sorts, or all these things that are complex. Okay, so that's it, and then I'm just going to cancel my transaction and everything, right? I don't think I had tried to modify anything, but anyway, if I had, everything would be just cancelled. Okay. So back to my presentation, and just some free candy that you can take home. Very easy. Don't wait. If you have a developer toolset, first thing to do, edit your default custom menus. All these bulk actions, bulk edit commands that you have in the menu, just replace them with script, right? Import records, delete all records, replace field content, relookup field content. Just replace them with what we have here. All the same script, very, very easy. This is import records. Just check, am I already in a transaction? In that case, I just import normally. If I'm not, I'm just opening a transaction, import records with the dialog and everything. I'm just not changing anything, right? The only change is that if I cancel, I will have this, do you want to continue the script or exit? But apart from that, this just replaces exactly the import command, and it's transactional. We could, yeah, but that's not free candy anymore. Okay, yeah, just on time. Question? Do we have time for Q&As or no? 3 minutes. Okay. Yeah.
As it's in the title, could you just yes, as it's in the title, could you just refer to on window transaction?
Is it in the title? No.
Not your title.
Oh, okay.
We've
No, this is.
transactions, but we've also now got an on
Okay, on-window transaction is my new hobby, but this is really not the topic of that. It's completely different thing. So
That's what I want you to emphasize.
I would be yes, but I know in Berlin I made a mistake to talk about the two things in the same session, and people were so confused. So I really paid attention to not mixing the two here. So I'm really happy to answer questions in the hallways, but yeah, it's really the transaction word in both of them. But another way of doing transactional database with FileMaker, I really encourage you to go and attend the presentation by John Renfrew later today about OData. OData is a gorgeous way of working in a transactional way with FileMaker.
So you replace and delete all records by your own script just if a user wants to cancel it halfway?
Excuse me?
You,
No, yeah, just a little bit. It's just.
so you replace, for instance, delete all records script by your own one with the transaction steps in it? Is it because of the user can halfway during the operation cancel the operation?
Well, they can. I'm not. I mean, we could be in some context where you would not allow the user abroad. I'm just changing nothing to the feature. Just make it transactional. I don't know. Clay is around. I don't know why it was not made default. I don't imagine a case where that would break something, making those steps transactional. But I'm not.
Canceling is the problem,
Yeah, canceling is a problem.
When you put it all in one transaction, it's all or nothing. You can't. The whole bailing out in the middle with the network transactions is a lot more complex than inside the transaction, inside a big transaction. Because there's 4 operations he's replacing. They're normally being done like in groups of 500. So you give a chance because the network protocol says you get to cancel and then stop somewhere in the middle of the process. But I guess if the port was on, or I guess we could start looking at all the different flags and maybe try to do it without
Actually,
this script.
Actually, it just works like that. I mean, you can still cancel in the middle of the thing, and it just cancels the transaction.
It still does a whole lot of work. It doesn't really cancel right away. You may not notice it, but
Oh yeah, but it's really cancelled. Yes, but
This one is especially useful if you do one perform script on server and replace field content for triggering updated calculated fields. And in the
yes.
network
So replace field content is your new best friend. I mean, because replace field content was not transactional, we used to use loops and everything. Now, yeah, change layout. Go to related record. Do a find. Replace field content. If it fails, well, just revert to transaction. It's so much easier than building loops and so on.
thing it doesn't revert is serial numbers, if I'm
Oh, okay. So yeah, indeed, because
putting that in your caveats thing, there are some things it doesn't actually revert.
yes, because serial numbers is not really data, right? It's a database structure. So it would be, of course, serial numbers if they are created, by the way, on record creation, not on record commit, because then that would work. But if there are, imagine you would start importing the million records and then stop. But some people they have created also records, so they need to share these the sequence. So that's something I didn't mention is yeah, some script step. I think it makes perfect sense, but it's not immediately obvious. Some script step, when they do when they cause an error, do not revert the transaction. I said it was related to the database operations, right? So for instance, set a field that is a calculated field, or set a field on a locked record or something, reverse the transaction. Some others, they're a bit weird. For instance, if a field does not exist anymore in your database, that would cause, I guess, a 102 error. That would not revert the transaction. This is a bit, yeah, I understand the logic behind it, but it's a little bit It's not immediately obvious. Yeah, now I have